Thank you for joining us for another amazing podcast of Two Dudes in a Bible. I'm your host, Dr. Ren Shuffman, and with me is Pastor Justin Heckel, and we're excited to be with you today. We're so excited that I forgot to, well, I don't know why I keep doing that's 2 times in a row. I did that last week too, didn't I? It's just because it's so catchy.
I was going to say, I cannot keep from bobbing my head to this thing,
right?
Man.
So I've told people, and I'm like, what does this remind you of? And everyone has told me the same thing. It reminds them of, they're like, it feels like Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. And I said, yes. And I said, which one? And everyone have said, come on, if you're in the comments right now and you're watching, tell me what Saturday morning cartoon that reminds you of. Because when I tell you, I was like, yes. So you can tell that we're nostalgic. Sounds, smells, things like that will actually bring back memory, and they have an ability to actually stimulate your body. I'm going to talk about some science of the Bible here in just a minute. So but some of that, it brings back a memory, which actually causes something to happen in your body. When you hear something, like when someone says, oh, I'm feeling the vibe, your body actually responds. It's called cymatics. And your body actually responds to sound waves in a particular way. And especially if you have positive emotion attached to them, your body will actually respond, and it creates something. So that one, for whatever reason, causes a response in me because it's Saturday morning cartoons.
Get me my cereal.
Right, the big bowl.
The big bowl.
The big bowl. You know, you polish off the whole box. Back when you didn't have to take a loan out to buy cereal. You guys remember that?
Oh, man.
We've had a governmental change of the guard, so I'm hoping cereal will be affordable again. Right? I'm just hoping cereal will get affordable again because I am 2 payments away from owning my eggs.
That is about true, man. That is about true.
I'm going to own them.
And when you feed your church,
right.
when you feed your church, it's like,
we had to cancel the church breakfast because y'all's $5 wasn't cutting it. Can't have church breakfast. You know how much eggs are? I know what I have. Then you guys want to come in there and use our eggs and our toilet paper. No. That's gold. What is this, fancy church? Got eggs and toilet paper. Right.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm glad that's not the reality anymore. But welcome. So I'll tell you my thought of it when I listen to our theme song that opens it up. My first thought is always, that sounds like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's
100%. 100%.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, here's the question that everyone's asking before we get deep into what we want to talk about today. The question that everyone wants to know is, Justin, as somebody who's studied mixed martial arts and done that, right? You know, you got the cauliflower ears and all that, right? A little more seasoned than I am even. Which turtle are you?
Oh my goodness.
Who in your spirit?
In my spirit.
In your spirit. Like when you're praying and you're putting on the full armor of God. Are we orange? Are we purple? Like, what turtle armor are you wearing for your full armor of God? We're not putting on Roman armor. We're putting on turtles. Come on. I'm a ninja, so I'm a ninja.
And you study jujitsu, and
that's because we invented it. It's jujitsu. These Brazilians think they have it's jujitsu. Then our name is on it.
I would like, man, it's weird because they all have their personalities.
Yeah, no.
Hard.
No, he's Raph. Raph's got a bad attitude. Justin never stops laughing.
Well, when she said that though, I'm like, man, there are times, I will tell you, I've had times in my sunroom where we hold all of our stuff and I'm sitting there interceding for people. And when I know they're really going through something and I'm praying for them, there have been times that I've just been like in my sunroom and all of a sudden I'm just like, that's all that I let out. I mean, literally, that is all that I let out.
So you pray like Raphael, but you act like Michelangelo.
Right? I was just going to say, man.
But you have the wisdom of Leonardo.
Leonardo.
But are you a tech genius Are you a tech genius?
I'm not a tech
Okay,
genius, so I'm not.
So you got 3 out of the 4.
As much as I'd like to be like,
There you
I'm
go.
smart.
Right, you got to intercede like Raphael. You have to lead like Leonardo. And when ministry is done, you have to let it all go and act like Michelangelo. There you go. So for you guys that are watching from around the world, you have no clue what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an American cartoon that we grew up as kids, just to be fun as we start this podcast. So, but I do want to talk about some good things today. I think it's going to be fascinating. I want to get into some sciencey stuff, okay? And I think, Justin, you're going to love this. I didn't tell him about any of this, but I have just been pondering this idea of hard. Okay. And so I've been thinking about this idea of why is everything so hard? I just got off the phone with one of the churches I'm going to be visiting soon. And we were discussing this idea that when I first planted my church, I was frustrated, praying to God and saying, Lord, why is this so hard? Like, why is it we have to battle or fight through every little baby step that we take? It's, and I talk to my friends who are ministers. And I'm like, man, we need a building, and the money's not there. And like, we can't stay here, but we can't go there because we don't have the money to go. But we can't stay here. We've grown out of it. What do we do? We're in this rough in between place, and it's hard. And I'm like, what do you do? What did you do? And they're like, oh, well, you just pray, and then the next week God will give you a building. I'm like, I don't like you. I don't think we can be friends anymore. Literally. Okay, that's not even a joke. Like, another pastor I know, he's like, we just prayed in the old bowling alley that closed. They just gave us their building. I'm like, what? And I called a friend of mine that was a pastor, and he pastors a church of like 1,600. I don't know, like a lot of people. They have way more now, several thousand now. And I was like, what do you do about this? And I tried to get some counsel from him, and he goes, oh, well, I just have my secretary file those legal documents and give that to my lawyer, and he'll take care of that. And I'm like, well, are you offering me your lawyer? Because, like, I don't have a secretary, and I don't have a lawyer. Like, we're trying to start something here. We don't have any of that. And the money to pay that. It's like, can you give me something practical? And I realized until I get to a church of 300-400, nothing he says has any practical application for me, because he came into something already established. He didn't build something. He just manages what some other person built. And so I'm like, you have no benefit for me. And so I was always frustrated going, Lord, I don't know what it is. I don't know why everyone else, am I doing it wrong? Is the favor of God not on me? Am I making a mistake? Is your hand not in this? Because it's hard. And I couldn't rationalize in my mind that if it's in his hand, that it could be hard. And so I didn't know how to have both of those work in conjunction. And one day I prayed to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, why is everything you're calling me to do hard? And he said this to me. I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but I want to be clear on that. I'm very careful. If the Lord said it, it's going to be an exact sentence, or I'm going to tell you it's been so many years. I'm just paraphrasing the heart of it. And he said this to me. He said, basically, like, if it wasn't hard and you didn't have to struggle through it, you would have no earthly advice for these pastors. Just like the other ones had no advice for you. You wouldn't be able to help them. You'd have no earthly counsel. It's hard so that you can have wisdom to help them walk out processes. Because not everything is just, I'm going to give you a building. That's not how it always works. And you would be no earthly good to them if I did that. And I've called you to counsel and raise up other pastors and other leaders and other churches, and you have no advice to give them other than just pray harder, just get the intercessors together, which, yes, you should do that, and God will move supernaturally. It definitely happens, but that doesn't help. So, where I'm at now is I can walk into a church like I did at one of the churches in Florida, and they're like, yeah, I was like, hey, how come you guys aren't live streaming? Well, they tell us that we're going to have to spend $2,000 or $3,000 just to get the live stream going. And I looked at their equipment, and I was like, no, you don't. You just need this one piece of equipment. It's like $200 and something. I looked up on Marketplace. I'm like, here's someone selling it for $200. That's all you need. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was able to walk them through it. Why? Because I know where every cable, every wire, I set up everything as a pastor. And then I trained people to do it. I wasn't stunted waiting on people to come in that knew how to do things. I just found willing bodies and trained them to do it because I learned it, then I trained them to do it. So I was able to run at a speed that other people couldn't run because of that, okay? And so I recognize the value of learning that stuff. But is there value to things that are hard? Right? So is there value to things that are hard? Let me tell you something. Here's the truth. There is something in your brain called, let me see if I can get this right. Your mid cortex, okay? It's your mid anterior cortex in your brain, and it has this really fascinating property to it that I think is just incredible. Okay, the mid anterior cortex actually controls your desire to live. Okay, your will to live is found there. And what they find is that people that have a very low will to live have a very small it's a mid-singular anterior cortex or mid-anterior singular cortex, one of the ways. And I won't say that again just because it's long. So that controls your will to live. And what they found was this: when you do a task that you don't want to do, it grows. And so does your will to live. So when you do something that's difficult, that you really don't have a desire to do, that you would rather be like, oh, I don't want to do this, your cortex grows there in gray matter. The brain matter grows. When you do things that you want to do, that's easy to do, it shrinks. And so does your will to live. So when they look at obese people, because they're constantly giving into their cravings, right? They're not resisting anything. They find that their cortex is small. But when they find people that have struggled and done things, it's like I talk about like doing ice baths and sitting in a sauna, and like, who wants to do that? I don't want to do it. I do it all the time, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it at all.
I just go outside in South Dakota.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, it's like 8 degrees here, so it's cold enough for that here too. It's like 8.
Oh, yeah, you guys are getting hit, aren't you?
We're getting hit. Yeah, we're getting hit. So, like, yeah, it's single digits. That's crazy. All right? And so what happens is the standard, the way our bodies are built, is that when we do things that are hard, that are unpleasant, that we don't like, we actually increase our will to live. That means that we actually want life more because life is hard. But here's the catch, because people are like, oh, no, I know people that are like poor. They get kicked out of their house. They do drugs. Like, that's hard. That's hard. Here's the thing about it. What they found was this. It has to be things that are hard but purposeful. If the thing is hard because you're just sabotaging your life, they saw no change in the mid-singular cortex. It was only when that person did something that it had to be purposeful, and it had to move their life forward. Like, it had to have strategic value to them for their life. So struggling with something that had value for them and that they felt was purposeful and had meaning to it, they grew their will to live. And it also helped them reduce stress and deal with anxiety and depression. Like, incredible that God designed you for that. That's why sin is so damaging. Listen to this. Sin is not damaging because, well, you're a bad person. It's damaging because when you give into your flesh, you're actually reducing your will to live. Sin, the Bible says that the wages of sin is death. Quite literally, your brain moves towards death. Literally. You give up the will to live when you sin, when you give into what's easy. So people will say this, why doesn't God just take away my desires? Like, Lord, just take away my addictions, take away my desires. And it's beautiful when he does, when he just frees someone from an instant addiction. I believe the mercy of God says, I know this person can't beat this addiction on their own. I have to take this away. But the blessing, the way God designed you, is that if he thinks for 1 second you can beat it on your own, he may let you keep fighting that thing, not because he's cruel, but because he's kind, because he designed your body to get stronger when you resist the devil. When you resist sin, when you resist temptation, you are actually growing the same way that resistance with weights grows your muscles.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So here's the second part. I talked about that on Sunday, but here's the second part. If you're watching and you're at my church, here's the second part I didn't get to. And there's all kinds of sciencey stuff, PTSD and such that was benefited from this, okay? From doing hard things. So that's why I do the cold, because it's hard. Cold plunges are hard for me because I have a few things that scare me. Okay. I have a few things that are like, fear responses trigger. I think I have three. Yeah, three. And one of them I've already overcome, zombies. I used to be terrified of zombies. It's true. It's true. Like when I was younger, I was like, zombies. Like that was the thing that freaked me out. There's going to be zombies. So now I'm very ready for the zombie apocalypse.
You grew up in LA.
A lot of them act like zombies. So, yeah. So, yeah, they don't have a brain of their own. I'm just kidding.
I was not going there.
I was not going there. I'm just trying to think of something humorous. That didn't work.
I was just thinking, like, there are so many movies and whatever where it's like a zombie apocalypse hits like a city or something.
Oh, yeah, and the city's just devastated. Yeah. My fear of the zombie apocalypse is it'll start, but no one told me it started. I'll survive it. Like, I'm ready. But then just some guy walks up to me and I'm like, "Can I help you?" And he bites me, and then I see his face, and I'm like, "No one told me it started yet. I just needed 5-minute heads up, and I would have been so ready." Yeah. So. That okay. I don't like needles. Okay, like. I don't like needles. I had an experience with needles where I was like, nope. So like that one, I have to take a deep breath, when someone's gonna needle. And then the other one is cold water. Cold water. And I know that's crazy, but like cold water, it would take me 5 minutes to get into barely cool pool. Like I don't splash. Don't move the water. Don't move the water.
Here's the deal. I would do a cold plunge all day long. Ellie will tell you I'll take like really cold showers when I can't have a cold plunge thing. But it's like, going to the pool with my kids in the summer and it's cool up here, it's like it's not hot enough to make the water warm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hit your belly button,
right? Hit your belly button. You're like, I have to go in steps, and I'm like, if you splash, I'm getting out. Like,
I told her, I said, Ellie, I think I need to get like a rash guard shirt or something for the next year when we go to the pool, because I just need something to keep my body heat in.
Dead of summer, you're wearing a wetsuit to the pool, right? Yeah. Like, and so like I would watch people jump in the pool, just leap in the pool, and I'm like, nope, they're crazy. Not me. And so that was like, honestly, that was like a big deal. That's somewhere that held me back, and I was afraid of cold water. Not like where I had panic attack kind of thing, but just like, like I don't like it. And so it had me beat. And so when the cold plunge thing got presented to me, and I saw the health benefits of the cold plunge, because it's hard and your body is kind of like you're throwing your body into something that's really hard. So when you sit in a cold plunge for more than 1 minute, right, your body has been shocked, right? Your body is not accustomed to it, and it's trying to survive. It doesn't want to hit hypothermia because we're getting in 50-degree water. And by the way, people that do it like less than that, there's no benefit to it. It's just, they're just trying to show how awesome they are and annoying. But when you get in it, your body is shocked, and it releases proteins from your liver that you can't get any other way. And so there's these wonderful proteins that come out of your liver that are so beneficial to you. And so that has health benefits. So I started doing that, right? But it's because it's hard, and I'm overcoming my fear. I refuse to live where something has power over me and defeats me. But every single time I go to get in the cold plunge, I'm like, oh, okay. And I psych myself up and get ready for it and go in it. It's not like I made it easy. The problem is if you do something that's hard and you desire to do it and it gets easy, it no longer has the same benefits. It will no longer grow your cortex. Okay, the shock of the cold water will still release the proteins, but your cortex no longer grows. So you have to do them in conjunction. It has to be something that you don't really desire to do, that your flesh wants to say no to. All right. So here's the part that you're going to love. If you haven't heard this before, and you're going to love this. So I don't know if you know this, but there's a pharmacy in your body of happy pills. Okay. Your body actually has.
I obviously know.
You've been taking them. He's on the happy pills, right? It turns out the happy pills name is Wen Schuffman. See? See? You see? You see? You see? Keep laughing. I like it. I like it. So, are you done? Nope.
I'm trying. It makes me think of Roger Rabbit when the weasels get mad because they won't quit laughing.
Oh, yeah. Patty cake. Never mind. So, my wife literally this morning, she was going like this. She was just like doing that to me, like air patty caking. And that's, I don't think she even knows, but I thought of Roger Rabbit. I winked at her and she just looked at me and smiled, but I don't think she got it. Anyways, if you've watched Roger Rabbit, I'm married. I'm allowed to do that. So patty cake. So, so there's the happy pills, but you're not actually releasing any happy pills. Here's the truth is that you have a pharmacy of chemicals in your muscles that actually reduce anxiety, depression, fight that back, not just dopamines, okay? But you actually have specialized chemicals that are in your body that make you happy. And there's only one way to release them out of your muscles and into your bloodstream, and it's through muscle contraction. So not just this, but strong contraction. So when I do this, nothing is happening. I'm contracting this muscle, but there's not resistance. And so when there's resistance and it's a strong contraction and I actually have resistant energy and I squeeze the muscle, it actually squeezes out and secretes these happy chemicals and molecules into your bloodstream. And the only way they get from your muscle to your bloodstream is through contraction. So when you work out, when you go for a hike, when you swim, anything that puts contraction strength onto your muscle, when you climb a flight of stairs quickly, those things contract your muscle and they release happy pills. They release happy molecules into your system. And so you're meant to have your muscles challenged. Your muscles are meant to do hard things, not just to grow the muscle, but to keep you in a positive mental state. In fact, if you look at like most depression and anxiety, you will see that what's one things that you can tell someone has been depressed?
That they sit around a lot.
They're sitting around.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Honestly, because you've been to our homeless shelter, to our men's center, and it's like we were slowly putting in workout equipment, and then one of the local colleges was like, "Hey, we're changing out our weight room," and we got like all their weight equipment,
all the stuff,
and it had been this thing that we did very strategically. We used to have all the outlets just regular, and we locked up all the outlets so that they could only charge their phones at night, or if they do volunteer work, then they can charge their phone at our front desk. But the thing was when we left the outlets open, guys would literally plug in to the outlets and stay there all day like this.
All day.
And we did that, and within a couple of weeks, almost every guy in there, we had like an 80% employment rate within a couple of weeks. Yeah. And then we started getting the weight equipment in there and the workout equipment. And what we do now is that we actually tell them you have to earn the ability to use the weight room. Like you have to get 3 boxes on their card. So it's really easy to get 3 boxes. But here's the thing is once they have that to the ability to have a week, because that buys them a week of being able to use the gym. Once they have that ability, every workout they do gets them a box. So they could work out and get 7 boxes that week so that they automatically can pay the next week plus have an extra 4 boxes. So it's like once you get the ball rolling, it's getting them to go, now keep using it. But so much of what we do is to keep guys moving so that they stay out of depression and anxiety and things like that. It's crazy. But I wouldn't have put into terms all the things that you were just saying and stuff either.
Yeah. So it actually releases chemicals that tell them to be happy. And then at the same time, if it's something they're saying, this is good for me, but I really don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to go to the gym. That's why I go to the gym. Right. I go to the gym because I don't want to. I work out because I don't want to. Right. There are people that they're secreting happy into their bloodstream. They're addicted to working out. But the reality is because they want to work out. They're actually not growing the gray matter of their brain towards their will to live because they want to. So they're only getting some benefit from it. But us people who are like, oh, I have so many other things I need to do. And, I've been married for 25 years. I don't care. She loves me chubby. So what? Right? So what? I want that food, right? I want the food. But when I resist that, I'm actually growing my brain center, increasing, and God designed me to resist. God designed me for a world that would offer struggles. Like he didn't just throw me into a world and then sin entered the world. Here's the beautiful thing. We had no struggle in the garden.
Yeah.
So there was nothing in us that was developed to grow from the garden. Okay? But when sin enters the world, God places in us some kind of mechanism that resists and says, hey, look at this, where the scripture says this. It says, all the things the enemy meant for evil, all used for good. Literally, he built into our DNA and our design things that would bring good out of hardship, out of struggle. As long as our mindset, that was the key, as long as our mindset is for a purpose and a plan, and it's good for us, it will grow our brain. Like, that's incredible. And if it doesn't have purpose, it has to be something that has value to us and we believe has purpose that will move our future forward. God designed us to be fruitful and multiply and to accomplish the missions at hand, that the purpose has to be attached to it. That's mind blowing.
Well, let me say this too.
As well as mind building.
Man, I have mind blowing and mind. Where's my helmet? So don't make a mess when you blow my mind.
Right. It's okay, because now I can tell you how to grow it back.
There are two things that are hitting me. One is that, like, now it seems like so many young people now have this idea that you're supposed to set life up to be as easy as possible, right? Like that, man, like, let's not have kids because, I want to work a job that'll pay me, but I don't want to work a job that that makes me have to really step up to the plate. You know what I mean? That makes me have to take on responsibility. I want a job that's always flexible with me, not because I have other things going on in life, but because I just want that comfortability of not having to show up on time, things like that. We do have a lot of that going on right now, where it's like, I want to set life up and somehow I feel it makes me seem really good if I could say life is comfortable for me, and the thing is that those are the people that I typically watch struggling all the time, saying how much the political climate makes them have anxiety, talking about how, like, the way I'm fearful for wanting to bring kids into this world. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I love raising my kids right now because my kids are, like, really, let me put it, they're monsters in a good way. Like, but they get stuff done and they pray for people like left and right. I'm like, my kids can excel like really easily in this world because they are so good, and they're good, but it's like, but so few people know how to do that. Another thing is that even in, I've seen a lot of jujitsu gyms lately putting out videos that are talking about how, like, and wrestling gyms, and saying, hey, quit letting your kid quit wrestling or jujitsu because they're like, it's hard. Make them stay in it because it's hard. Yes, because life is not going to take it easy on them.
You letting your kids off the hook because it's hard and they don't like it is not helping them. You're hurting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's examine that. Like the question that was just asked a minute ago, does that mean that your pleasure center is tapped? To a degree, yes, that's absolutely true. Even in things like fasting, for example, when you fast for a couple of days, you release different types of chemicals into your system that you don't get any other way. There's a chemical that everyone is talking about, not testosterone, but it's like I want to say it's like NAP or something like that. But it's a thing that you
NAD?
can take.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe NAD. Yeah, that's what it is. NAD. Yeah, so NAD, it's a huge thing that talks about increasing the longevity of life, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so there, people like you can buy it in the pill form, but it doesn't really absorb through your stomach acid. So people take injections or IV. They get it through IV, and that's the best method. And then literally, everyone that knows something will be like, yeah, or you could just fast, which produces natural NAD. God created you with this natural life-sustaining thing that increases longevity of life that's built into you when you deny yourself a pleasure, when you deny yourself the food pleasure. You're actually increasing dopamine response. You're actually increasing longevity of life, right? And so when you look at that, it's like fasting has a lot of those things built in. Fasting cleans your cells out. It'll get rid of zombie cells. It'll get rid of cells that are broken and not working right. Your body will go, oh, we're not getting new nutrients in. We need to go through and clean out the problem cells, because when everything's great and there's plenty coming in and there's no famine, there's let the zombie cells, let the weak cells, let the broken cells just exist. There's more than enough. Well, the second there's not more than enough, the body's like, oh, we need to cut the budget. Like, and it's like, yeah, you need to go. You're not essential services anymore, cell, because you're a broken cell, right? So they start getting rid of them, right? And so you could say it's very, almost like it's not what we call humane. Our cells are not humane. They're like they're
survivalists.
Yes, we are in famine. Who's the weak one? Sacrifice him. Like that's what it does. Okay, and so your body has more efficient cells in it. Okay, but let's look at something like there it is. Right. I'm trying not to get overly scientific.
Autophagy,
yeah, it's autophagy. I know those terms, but what happens is everyone else just goes, I don't know what you're saying about the mid-singular cortex, like mid-singular. Right. So, but now here's another factor. I wonder if this plays into the reason why the studies consistently show that it doesn't matter the age, but when somebody retires, statistically, they die within 2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years, doesn't matter the age. Doesn't matter if they retire in their 70s, doesn't matter if they retire in their 60s. They retire, and within 2 to 5 years, they die. In fact, I can't tell you how many anecdotal stories that I have from someone that worked their whole life, retired, and 6 months later, they were gone. All the time, right? We probably both have those stories. All the time. And it's like God designed you to live with purpose. Now, am I suggesting that you should keep working that job you hate because it's increasing your will to live? That's not what I'm saying.
Well, that's like how we said earlier, people getting kicked out of their home or whatever. No, you're tolerating. You're not choosing, like you're not willfully going, I'm going to go there and do this because I hate it. Right? You're going, I've got to keep working, or whatever.
Right. But the reality is yes, working that job you don't like that much is actually helping you have a will to live. It's not necessarily increasing your health, but it does give you a will to live.
Yes.
But you can shift into purpose, right? So you can move over, and what happens is towards the end of the career, you stop having purpose in it. So it stops increasing your will to live. And so when you get closer to retirement, what you're doing is you're separating that this has purpose for me anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when that happens, you're no longer increasing your will to live. So what becomes necessary is not retirement, but transition of seasons. Now that I don't have to work there, I'm going to go do something I feel called to, something that has more purpose, but I'm not going to do it easy. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to press through it. I'm going to accomplish things I've always wanted to accomplish, right? And I'm going to chase dreams and goals that I didn't have before. And I'm not going to go slow and easy. I'm going to go hard. And so when you go hard and you're accomplishing something that is not always easy to do, that's why when I was in the business world, I taught something called Eat That Frog. Okay. It's a book called Eat That Frog. Great business leader book, but it says that basically you could read the whole book, or I could just summarize it in 1 minute and you'll get the life lesson. It's so simple. It's this. Nobody wants to just devour a live frog. Like, that sounds disgusting, to eat a live frog, unless you're with me in the country at Man Camp, where we serve frog legs, and they're unbelievably delicious. Okay. Unbelievably delicious. And everyone's like, why do we even do buffalo wings when there's frog legs available in the world? Okay. I have guys from LA come out and they're like, never again. Buffalo wings are just cheap frog legs. They're just the chicken nugget of frog legs. Yeah, they're better. But anyways, eat that frog. So nobody wants to eat a raw frog. But if the raw frog is the thing that will move you closer to your destiny, will move you closer to your goal and accomplish. So the idea is that every day when you wake up, you don't do the tasks that you want to do. And until I understood this scientific concept, eat the frog, I knew was true, but now I understand its value. So when I get up, I don't need to tackle the things that are easy or quick to do on my list, or that I want to do first to get myself moving.
That's right.
I need to go after the one thing, even if I don't want to do it, that will move my future forward. And the consideration of whether or not I want to do that task, oh gosh, I'm dreading this task, has nothing to do with it. Is this the thing today that will have the most impact on my future? That's what I should be focused on first. And I should rank it in order of impact. And so the least impactful thing waits to the end. And if anything gets delayed, or purposeful procrastination is a skill. There are a lot of people that don't know how to procrastinate things. They see something and they jump on it. And it's like, hey, that task is distracting you from what actually has value today for your future. So purposely procrastinate those things that have, rank them in order of future progress, and do the last one last. And if you have no time for it, push it off, right? Push it off till tomorrow, what you could do today. And purposely procrastinate. And what happens is, because you don't want to do that, eat that frog, you're actually growing your brain, your will to live, fighting off depression, increasing your stress responses. Like, it's incredible how that works. Here's another one that you can do. I'm giving you guys gold today. Gratitude. So I've given you all kinds of tools to see your life explode forward with purpose. And the other one is this. If you're struggling with anxiety, I'm not suggesting this is a cure, but it is an immediate fix, okay? So obviously, contracting the muscles releases these happy pills. Boom, all of a sudden you work out and you feel happier, right? You've released endorphins and all that into your system that you didn't have in there before. But here's one that maybe you didn't know. If you're having an anxious moment, studies have found that you cannot be grateful or be expressing gratitude and anxiety at the same time. You cannot express anxiety while you're being grateful. So expressing gratitude will instantly cause anxiety to shut down. The brain cannot both be grateful and anxious at the same time. It has no ability to do both. And so if I'm being thankful, if I'm expressing thanksgiving to you and being thankful for things, all of a sudden my anxiety goes. I had some people that came up to me afterwards and they had gone through rehab. They went through rehabs for addictions. And one of the things was they had to write, like every day they had to write out what they were thankful for. And she came up to me and she says, hey, you know, what you said, like I never realized it before. They wanted us to get into the mindset of being thankful, but I never realized when there was times where I was starting to have like anxiety, like, I'm like where you, sometimes you don't know you're anxious, but other times you're like, man, I'm so anxious. And she said, when I would sit down to write that list, I would feel all this anxiety. But she goes, I noticed that when I started writing the list of what I was grateful for, my anxiety would instantly leave. She goes, I never put that together, but when I wrote the list, it was like, oh, I feel, she goes, I didn't realize that being thankful was causing it to instantly go, that it couldn't exist. So she just knew, okay, I'm training myself to be thankful. Anxiety is going away. But it was more than that. It literally stopped it dead in its tracks. And that doesn't cure it. I'm not suggesting that's a cure, but it is like, if you have somebody and you're like, I'm getting all this anxiety, start being thankful. It's like, you ever heard like when someone is getting anxious, like you splash them with cold water, you put your face in cold water instantly if they're freaking out, and it'll shock them to calm down. Like you instantly will calm down. It's the same concept as that. So if you've ever done that, taken cold water, splashed your face, and it shocks you into changing your mindset. just saying the things you're grateful for will suddenly bring you out of an anxiety, even an anxiety attack. It'll go away, according to research.
That's why I spank my kids, and then I say, "Be thankful it wasn't your head." Just kidding.
So now they're crying, but they're not anxious.
But they're not anxious. It took away all their anxieties.
Right. Right. It's like when you say, "I'm coming in there to spank you," and they're like all freaking out because they're about to get spanked, so they're anxious. Just talk about how thankful you are for your life, and you won't be so anxious about the spanking that's coming in 2 minutes.
If Liam hears this, he's gonna freak out because I'll sing spanking songs and he will be like, "Stop singing about spankings!" Like,
I love your spanking songs. Some of the best songs.
Yeah. What was it too? There's another one that I've heard that you actually only experience anxiety and fear before you do something. You don't feel anxiety and fear while you're doing something.
Yes.
Which is interesting. It's like, and it makes sense to me having done fighting, because I remember, like, man, you're like sitting there, like, before they tell you to come out, you're like, oh my goodness, right?
You start
and then they're
trembling.
like, yeah.
Not because of fear, but the anxiety of the adrenaline rush and all that.
Yeah. And you're just like, how, I mean, it does run through your head. How hard can this guy hit? What does he know? All that kind of stuff. You go walking out, and honestly, like what we always used to say is, man, I can't wait until he clocks me the first time, because then it's game on. And it's like until then I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't want to get hit. And then once he hits you, you're like, okay, let's go. Like,
right?
It's like,
you're like,
all
that
of a sudden,
wasn't so bad.
No, it's not.
You're like, that was terrible.
You're like, this was a terrible decision. I regret my life.
This immediately. That's 100% true. I regret this decision immediately. That's what I would think as I was jumping from a bungee cord. As I dove off, I would be like, I regret this immediately. I remember I took my son, Eli, he must have been, 11 or something like that, but we went down to Six Flags. All of us went down there, but Eli rode the Texas Giant with me. And if you've ever been to that Six Flags in Texas that has the Texas Giant, it's a wooden roller coaster, and it is not gentle. It is not smooth. It was built in the day where, like, it jerks you around, it throws you around, you hit the lump, and, like, if you don't have that bar, you die. Literally, people have, like, not locked in. They've fallen off that roller coaster. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sitting with Eli, and I very quickly realized this thing is thrashing us around, and I'm dad, and he's 11. He is not locked into that seatbelt, like, because it's a bar that goes across both people. So he has, because he's little, so he has a couple inches. So he's, like, pulling up out of it. And so I've got my hand on him to hold him down, right? And I'm trying to just keep him calm. But the whole time he's like screaming, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm like, you have to do it. You don't have a choice. You have to do it. Like, there's no stopping. Like, but he's going, no, I can't do this. Like, if he just says, like, I can't do this, it's going to stop. It's not going to stop, right? So
right?
But he doesn't realize that he's actually in danger, because he is not locked in, and I've realized this. Like, this is terrible. So I've got my hand on him, just holding him down to make sure, because that thing is violent enough, it'll pop you out of it. And so, but he was freaking out the whole time. So there was, like, his anxiety was through the roof. And now that I know what I know, the whole time, I would have just told him to say, I'm so grateful that my father is holding me down. I'm so grateful my father is holding me down, right? Like, express gratitude, and the anxiety level would have dropped instantly. I'm grateful this thing's only 45 seconds long. Like something.
Like, in the middle of all this chaos, you're like, shut up, I'm growing your mid-anterior cortex.
Mid-anterior frontal cortex. Mid-anterior, cerebral cortex.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm increasing your will to live.
I'm increasing your will to live and stress responsors. Right? Just grip the bar and release secretions of happy medicine into your bloodstream dopamine and other chemicals are being released. You're fine.
Man,
But you get done, and all of a sudden, like, you're buzzed.
Yeah,
Like, you get done with something like that, and you're buzzed. Like, you're like, whoa! You know, like, there's a huge amount of, like, endorphin releases that come with that kind of stuff.
Unless you're Fedor Emelianenko and all those other Russian fighters, right? That are just like, they come out to fight, and they're just like, did you wake up from a nap? You look like you just woke up from a nap. And then they knock the dude out, and then they're like, can I go back to my nap?
Right?
They're like, what is with you guys?
They're already upset because they realize I didn't get hurt, and they're not going to let me fight for a few months.
They're like, where's a bear? I need a bear.
I need a bear. I need a bear.
But
I'm Russian. A Russian bear. Give to me bear, not man.
this is a pro.
Hairy man, not bear.
This is a promo that we want to be able to come to Russia and preach.
Right.
Preach the gospel.
Right.
They're like,
You let us preach, we will wrestle bear at them. Not a problem.
but but you know, it makes me think of a few things though. One is actually
That's
how,
her roller coaster. That was her roller coaster. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, can't stay there. Can't stay there.
There's no going back now, so you know.
That's fantastic.
But it makes me think of, you know, even the fact of you know, talking to people this week where, you know, I was talking about the, you know, God's not just going to drop $1 million in your lap. They're like, I'm praying for $1 million for the, you know, I'm like, God, give me $1 million so I can just do all the ministry stuff I want. I'm like, he's not going to. I'm like, because the truth, it's the same thing as Israel. I'm like, just like with Israel, he said, I'm not going to give you all of the promised land at once because you did let it get destroyed. You know, the wild beasts would overtake it. So I'll give it to you by piece. You know, and he's like, I want to increase, first off, the anxiety of having to take care of that much. Or if you ruin it, then you feel like God gave me this amazing thing, this amazing opportunity, and I dropped the ball. And now I don't feel worthy to carry anything again. Right. He's growing who you are in the moment, but part of that is also growing your risk factor. You're like, I'll take on risk. I'll take on more.
Yeah, risk that's manageable risk, something that makes you feel good about it. There's something that's powerfully built into you to appreciate, love, and value what you struggled for, right? Yes. That's just how you are. So you don't want to have too much, but having none, it actually it decreases gratitude. America is 23rd in the world, ranked 23rd in happiness. 23rd. There are third world nations more happy than we are. And so if you think your level of stuff or income is what will make you happy, as celebrities find out all the time that if I can just get one more thing, if I can just get one more, they live thinking that they'll be happy once they have this once. And we'll say that if I just get a wife, or if I just have a family, if I just have the right job, and we think somehow that'll bring happiness. It's not true. That's not it at all. It's not how it works. Like Crystal's on here, and, you know, like she did something with her kids. The kids were like constantly being careless. They would break vacuum cleaners and they break stuff in the house all the time. Just run over things with the vacuum cleaner that they should know they need to pick up that'll mess up the vacuum cleaner, right? And like stuff, just breaking things because they're being careless. And she started making them pay for it. If they broke it, they bought it, and so it would come out of their allowance. And guess what happened? Stuff stopped getting broken. Turns out, right? They stopped getting broken. So when all of a sudden it costs them something, that thing had value to them. And they treated it differently, and they respected it differently because it had value to them, because it cost them something. And when they bought it, you know, the things that they bought, it's like now they're guarding other people. What are you doing with that? I had to pay for that. Don't treat it badly. You know, it's like now they're protective of things that cost them something. They see the value of it. It was before, because it didn't cost them nothing, they had no value in it. They broke something the other day. Now they are sweeping the carpet for a season until they begged for me to buy a vacuum that they pay for. Now they want to buy a vacuum because they're sweeping it, and they'll treat the. See, I said vacuum. I said
And
like
let me just
things like a
say-
vacuum. Isn't that funny?
Let me just say, talking about taking on more and more, like increase by increase by increase, not just all at once, but increase by increase by increase. Crystal, I just want to say, like, I've known you like three and a half-ish years, and watching your family grow over the last few years has been incredible. Watching the different things you take on.
They're like 4'10". None of them have grown.
You roped me into it.
I told Bella the other day. It's one of her daughters is 16 or 17 now, and I told Bella the other day. I was like, "You need to go on another ministry trip with me." I said, "You don't have to pay for it. I'll just take you as my carry-on luggage. You're carry-on size." So I was just telling her I'll carry her around. I was like, "There's nothing in the rules that says your carry-on luggage has to be organic or inorganic. It doesn't say that at all. So I'll just put like my phone in your pocket, my wallet, like I'll just your hoodie, everything. And no, she's carrying my stuff. You're carry-on size, so I could take you, just stuff you in the compartment." She thought that was funny and not funny. So if you're just joining us in our podcast, we've been talking about ways that you can increase, that God designed you to resist and grow, that the things you walk through in your life that are hard, that God actually uses the hard things in your life to grow you if you will position yourself with the right mindset and purpose, that God can actually use those, that we're chemically and biologically, there are systems in place that when things are hard, they can grow us where nothing else can. So go back and listen to the science and the different studies that I revealed about things like that.
Let me bring this up too, because we talked about how God, what was it? The whole point about like when God lets you go through something hard, when he can tell like, hey, there's something in you saying that you can do this, I'll let you do this, and how you said it, you talked about it, God loves you, and he'll let you grow through that. Right. And whatever, man, the thing that popped in my mind was actually that Exodus 33, where Moses and God are talking, and God says, hey, you know what? I'm not going with the Israelites. Like, just go into the promised land, and I'll send an army of angels to wipe out your enemies, and you can just have your inheritance, but I'm not going with you. It's like when we're talking about what we're talking about today, that takes on a different meaning, because it's like, hey, you know what? Like, you can go have everything you want without a struggle, and you can have everything you want, but you will not, like, you will cease to grow.
Yeah. And let me make this very clear. None of the science is attached to when bad things happen to you, you grow. That's not what the science says. Bad things have happened to me, so now I've grown. No. Bad stuff happening to you does not grow. It's the way you purposely go after it. It's the way you purposely go, all right, I'm going to press through this. I'm going to purpose. I'm going to win. It's the way you fight to victory that actually grows you. So not just the bad thing happening, but the way that you resist it and you have a purpose. So that's why I said you can't tank your life, right? You can't just make bad decisions, or bad decisions are made to you and you grow from those bad decisions. That's not how it works.
Right.
It's when you are actively making positive steps to propel your future, and it's hard. It means you meet resistance. Other people get in the way, and you keep fighting through that and saying, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. Your positive attitude as you fight through will actually grow your gray matter of your brain and your will to live. But it has to be purposeful. It has to be missional, right? It's got to have something to feed your future. It can't just be, it's hard. It's got to be you purposing. So one of the things you can do is, if you're in a season where it's like, hey, this is tough, or things are coming at me that are tough, decide how you resist. Don't just resist to survive. Resist with a purpose of growth. Resist with
Yes.
get a vision for where you want to be and fight for that destination. Don't just fight to hold the ground you're holding. That's the mistake. I'm just trying to stand, and if I get knocked down, I'm just trying to stay right here. I'm trying to survive the desert.
Yes.
The reason why Israel was so prosperous is because they had a hope of a promised land. Okay.
Right.
And they had a word of the promised land. So they had a destination. So the desert had a purpose. I'm trying to get somewhere. If the only purpose was to survive another day in the desert, no growth. So science would say the gray matter would not grow because you're just trying to sustain. And the idea is to press forward. And so if it has purpose, so you take the resistance that you're seeing and say, I am going to press forward into victory. I have a plan of where I want to be. And even though everything is pushing me backwards, I'm not just going to stay here. I'm not just going to maintain. I'm going to keep trying to get further. That's actually where your gray brain matter grows. And then struggling physically releases those happy endorphins and everything. So it's like if you're having a terrible day, and you're like, I don't know how to move my future forward. Good. Contract your muscles, go work out, like do something physical so that you can release those temporary that temporary medicine that God designed you to in the struggle, and then get back to being purposeful. Like there's secrets, or take a list of things you are grateful for and speak those out loud, and you will watch anxiety decrease. It's amazing how God gave us tools to resist hard seasons. And then famine seasons, right? Our bodies are built to grow in fasting.
Totally.
Incredible.
Totally. Well, and let me say this, even Jesus, again, so many things are popping up that I'm like, I wouldn't have thought of it like this before, but even Jesus said, whoever has will be given more in abundance, and whoever has not, what they think they have will be taken from them.
Incredible, right?
It's like
whoever does something with what they have, whoever's being purposeful with what they have, they get more.
So even when you're in a position where you're like, man, I'm struggling, man, something's not good. If you go, but this is not where it ends. I know where I'm heading and I'm going there. You have in your mind, you have what you're going for. So it allows you to have more and have in abundance. But if you go, man, I just don't have, and man, and you focus on that, even what you have will start dwindling away.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, like with self-defense, a lot of self-defense will teach people survive, right? You want to survive, but I'm always like, that is a horrible goal to survive. That's a horrible goal because it leaves me no margin for error. Either I survive or I don't survive. But if my thing is, I'm going to make this guy realize that he picked the wrong target, right? Like I'm going to make this guy regret that he picked me for a target. If that's my goal, it leaves me a huge room for error, and I still survive. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me give a ministry example of like something I've been talking about. So, I travel, I take teams with me wherever I go. I'm raising up disciples. I'm raising up itinerant ministers. I'm starting and planting churches and helping ministers plant churches. That's a big part of my heart. Because I've struggled with my own, I've learned a lot of wonderful things, and I have a heart for that. So I've developed a heart for my struggle with those ministries. And growing them myself. Okay. But one of the things we're talking about is with my travel and stuff, especially going to coasts. I'm in the middle of the country in Oklahoma and going all the way to LA and then going all the way to Florida. It's like, man, those are 21-hour drives. Planes, when I take a group of people with me, they get really expensive on the team. I take 10 people and the flights are $500. It's $5,000 for me to go speak somewhere, for my team to go with me the way I've designed it to do. Now, I don't put that on the churches that bring me, but that's a lot of money spent to go do a weekend, right? It's just a lot of money. And so a lot of times we'll drive because it only costs a few $100s. And so we're keeping kingdom resources. We're not just giving it to American Airlines. but driving 21 hours, that's tough. So someone's like, we need our own plane. Like, we need our own plane. Yes, we need our own plane. And so it's like, we need to prepare ourselves. But I told them this. I said, the idea right now, we have a 15 passenger van that could use some TLC. It's an older van, and we probably need an upgrade pretty soon. And so we're like, okay, what do we need? We need something that has a bathroom in it, maybe like something more like a shuttle that has a bathroom in it. Then we could get places quicker. And so it was like, let's just get a plane. And I was pondering that thought for a while about just jumping and getting a plane. And I said, I really don't want to jump to a plane. I want to go to the shuttle, and then I want to get the bus that has the sleepers. And then after the bus, then we can get the plane. And I don't mind if that happens quickly, but I don't want to miss the in-between steps, because one of the best things is people will get in this red van, this 15 passenger van we have, and they'll be like, oh man, and we travel across the country, and they're like, oh man, like it's a long drive, and they'll start like saying things about, the roughness or the toughness of that travel. And I'll be like, you don't know nothing. You don't know what it was like when we were just traveling in Big Country's SUV. You don't know what it was like when we were just traveling in one of our people's SUV, and we had to travel across the country, and I try to make a little bed in the back seat, and like that was rough. Now we turn the benches, if we don't have 15 people, we turn the benches into full-size beds. Like they're little tiny twins. And I could stretch all the way out. I'm like, this is heaven, okay? You don't know what it was like when we were just doing it in an SUV, cramming 6 people in a 5-seater. We didn't do that. We definitely did that, okay? And, because we had Pastor Isaac. Have you ever seen him? My Kenyan pastor? And he's like, he would literally, we had bucket seats in the back seat. It was an SUV that seats like 7. And he would get a pillow and lay in the little center between the king seats. Right? Because we're cramming people in and traveling across the country. And I'm like, everyone talks about riding in the van to go to ministry. And it's like, I don't want them to miss the narrative of paying the price for it and giving their whole yes. Oh, Lord, I just give you my yes. Lord, I will travel in the G6. Lord, I will travel in the jet. I will sacrifice for you and fly a jet all over the world preaching to stadiums. Like, come on, right? Like, I love the story of the hardship in travel, and always got to stop every 20 minutes because somebody's got to pee, like, oh, please, I gotta go, like struggling, right? And so I don't want to miss those steps in between. I have learned something in my life. Maybe one time I'll share my story about, when Rachel and I, many people don't know that 25 years Rachel and I have been married, and this is our 26th year. But for 2 of those years, we were divorced. Like a lot of people don't know my full story about what it looks like. And I have people typically ask me, those 2 years, they were the hardest 2 years of my entire life, like bar none, period. I remember I used to count to 400 calories and I'd quit eating. I would count because I needed calories. I'd count to 400 calories and then quit eating because I couldn't eat. When people say loved hurt, I didn't know it physically hurt. Like you physically felt love. I had no clue. And it was such a hard season. And people say, hey, would you do things differently if you could go back? And I always have to answer, no. I'm not happy that things went wrong. I'm not celebrating that. But the things I learned in it and who I became in it, because I was intentional. I looked in the mirror. This is literally what happened to me. I was going through the hardest time of my life. I was so upset. I wanted to blame everyone else. And I looked in the mirror one day and I literally said this. I said, I don't like me. I had a real conversation with myself. I said, I don't like who I am. And I can't put that on anybody else. Life happens. I can't help what happened to me, but I can help who I am. I can do something about me, who I am. And I said, I don't like me. I looked in the mirror and I didn't like who I was. I didn't like my attitude. I didn't like my mindset. I didn't like me. And so I literally looked in the mirror and said, I don't like me. I think I'll go be awesome instead. That was the statement that changed my life. I don't like me. I think I'll go be awesome instead. That's literally what I did to change my life. And for the next 6 months, I asked myself one question. What does awesome look like? What is my definition of awesome? What does that look like? And I defined what me being awesome instead meant. So I had a level and I pressed through the hard till I got there. That's when I started the rock band. That's all of a sudden, a few months later, I find myself in the studio recording with Train. Like, you guys know who Train is. If you ever go on Spotify, just look up Stonewater, one word with my name. You'll find that. But like, I recorded my first album, Train. Now all of a sudden I'm opening, doing a band. Like, I wasn't in a band. I like me. I want to be awesome instead. What does that look like? Well, I want to be a lead singer of a rock band. That'd be awesome. So I did it. And it was hard, but I found myself all of a sudden in the studio with Train, and now I'm opening up for legends like Styx and Creedence Clearwater and Eddie Money, and I'm hanging out. I'm on stage with Charlie Daniels when he does Devil Goes Down to Georgia, and I'm backstage with Def Leppard, right? Like Rick the One-Armed Drummer took a picture of me, like right? Like life shifted dramatically when I just made a decision about what I wanted my life to look like, and I pressed towards that. I couldn't do anything about the other person that didn't want to be a part of my life. But I could do something about what I wanted my life to look like. And it wasn't contingent on anyone else lining up with that. I just had to be me. So I had to figure out what I wanted me to be like. And I chased after that with all I had. And the hard grew me into something I am today. And I tell people all the time, I'm the pastor I am today. I can love you through all your junk because I've been through junk myself. I know what it's like to not be the best version of myself, and to love me and to love my wife, and to even when she wasn't the best version. And so it allows me to be the pastor I am today. So no, I don't take any of it back. None of it.
I'll say this, man. I've just been dwelling on this a lot lately about. There have been so many times where I've been like, God, have I missed something somewhere? Like, should I have been moving faster somewhere, and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, Justin, in every season you've asked me if you're doing what you should be doing. And I've always told you, like, you've always listened when I told you to do what you're supposed to be doing. So you're exactly where you should be. Right. But it's like to me, like, I can look at stuff and be like, I should be further or whatever. But here's the deal is that when I look back, I remember why God told me to do certain things. For a long time, he told me not to get ordained, and I didn't know what, or to get credentials of any kind. And the reasoning was, he said, because people in the congregations don't know that this is all for them too. And so he had me lead as a lay person, and people came to me a lot of times.
Not a lazy person.
Not a lazy person, but people came to, like, I had a Bible study that had like 7 different churches involved with it. And I mean, we were doing a lot of stuff. People would come to me for a lot of different things for that. I'm like, why aren't they going to the pastor? But people would come to me, but it allowed me to ignite a lot of lay people to actually step up and start being the church and not relying on the pastor to do everything in the church. And but the other side of it was because Justin, there was also a season where we stepped out of ministry, went back into the marketplace, and I remember the Lord telling me at one point, saying, Justin, if you don't understand what people are going through, like that, too many ministers don't know how their people are, like, they don't get to have church meetings. Like, their work meetings are not like your church meetings. Their work meetings are like coworkers cussing at them, or, on a construction site or something like that. And you're like, oh, you should keep your peace and joy. Well, it's probably easier for you to keep your peace and joy in certain situations than for them to keep it, and it's probably harder in others, but he was just saying, hey, like, I am priming you for something. I'm training you for a reason. And like you said, it's like to go back. Oh, I don't really want to go back. But I would never give up what he's taught me through any of it either. And
I'm not looking for a repeat.
No. And that's
set myself up for a repeat. I'll learn my lesson.
That's one of the things too, though, is here's the deal is, like, again, God, give me $1 million. So many people want the miracle, the breakthrough, and all this kind of stuff. But the truth is that if you don't let it build in you the wisdom and the maturity and the resilience and all that kind of stuff, if you don't let it, too many people are constantly living in this, like, I'm having faith to get to my next paycheck. right? And it's like, God does not want you to stay in a place where your faith has to keep doing the same exact thing over and over and over again. He actually wants to get you to a place where I don't need faith to get me to my next paycheck. We have much bigger goals now, and we need faith for that stuff. You know, we have much bigger things we're dealing with. And so it's like we're supposed to go from glory to glory to glory, not be like, I need faith for the exact same glory all over again this week.
Right. And then there's always the other ones. They go from glory to gory, glory to gory. They're always backsliding, going back into the mess that they got themselves out of, and they throw themselves right back in the mess. That's not the struggle we're talking about.
No.
You don't throw yourself back in a mess because you're not being purposeful and you're not being intentional and moving your life forward. So you have to look. What you have to do is say, look, if I stay still, I'll stagnate, and it's going to get hard anyways. So I might as well press forward into the purposeful hard. And take the advantages that God gave me. God gave me advantages that says if you'll march towards your promise, I'll meet you with weapons. And so there are weapons that only activate in the march towards the promise.
That's so true.
How crazy is that God gave you weapons that would manifest on the march?
That's right. That's right.
Someone put that in the comments.
And let me say this too, because again, we've had some people saying that they're going through things. One of the big things for me has been the mind shift that Jesus is excited for my breakthrough, but he is not waiting for my breakthrough to enjoy me. He enjoys me right now.
Come on.
And he is with me right now. And having him and knowing that he understands everything I'm going through. He sees me, he hears me, he understands me. He's glad to be with me. And knowing that he is walking me through it is one of the biggest things. You know, I hate saying it, but in Pentecostalism, I think we focus too much on getting to the good time. You know, it's like, I need to get my breakthrough. I need to get and it's like, but you know what? God actually enjoys you right now, because there will never be another time after we're outside of this life. What am I going to struggle with? Right? I don't get to worship him in the middle of struggle ever again. I don't get to prove my faith by walking through something ever again. And there's something, you know, I have a really good friend who he was high up in a very big ministry for years. And he was, when he moved up here, he was going through something. He's like, I've just never been in this. I've always been in a culture of just extreme faith. And like, to be honest, we kind of are pioneering quite a bit up here in this realm, but it's like, but for him, it was like, I've been used to being surrounded by people of faith all the time. And so this is different for me. And I played him a couple of songs. One was one that I played for my grandma's funeral. And it basically said, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another one said, he never promised that the cross would not get heavy or that the hills would not get hard to climb. He never offered us victory without our fighting, but he said help would always come in time. So when you're standing in the valley of decision and the adversary says, give in, you hold on, our God will show up and he'll walk you through the fire again.
Yeah, come on.
And he went, that is a different kind of faith. That is a faith that says, it's the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faith that says, hey, look, I understand that bad stuff may come my way. This is my agreement. I'm not giving in.
You know, what's amazing is that some of the stories I tell the most about ministry times has been when I've ministered while I was running a fever, while I was sick, while I was trying to keep from throwing up. Like I literally talk about times where I was so sick, or I had a splitting headache, or something was wrong with me throughout my back, and I go minister anyways, right? And then see people get healed and miracles happen, and then I limp away, or I go and take some medicine and crawl in bed afterwards unhealed. And people are like, oh, that's hard, right? Well, yeah, of course it's hard. But it's one of the most fulfilling times that I've ever had in ministry is when I do those moments, because I recognize that I'll never get to do that in heaven.
Yeah.
In heaven, there's no more tears. There's no more sorrow. There's no suffering. I have a unique, beautiful opportunity to say yes when it costs me something. I will never have to pay a cost again. And I don't want to miss the moments where it's like, Lord, that was tough and I did it anyways. I got to see my own strength and what I was capable of. There's something beautiful about going, that I did it anyways. I fought through that. I made it. I achieved. I get to do that, and I get to bring a sacrifice of praise. In heaven, it won't be a sacrifice. Right. There's something here where it's like I get to choose to do it even when it's difficult, and that is that there's a level of free will that's available to me in that is not available when it's easy.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that God has given me the opportunity to love him when it's difficult, and I get to show that love in an intense, beautiful way I will never experience on the other side of glory. And so I don't get upset about that stuff at all. I get 176 years to do that only, because I'm going to live as long as Father Abraham, because I'm a Jew, so I have to. That's my goal, all right? Because I'm increasing my gray matter of my brain to will to live to 176.
My will to live is amazing.
My cortex is so huge right now. It's so buff. It's so buff.
It's so buff.
It's so buff. It's been so hard. It's so buff. Every time it's hard, I'm like, just growing my brain. It's getting bigger and bigger. All right? Just growing my brain. And so, like, I have a different level of understanding of going, yeah, I don't get to do this ever again. So I have 100 years. I got a short amount of time to be able to do that. Eternity is forever. Yeah. Eternity, this is a blink. I'm never going to remember the struggle. I want to press through all of that. I don't want to slow down when it's hard and get to eternity and go, oh man, I had one unique opportunity and I blew the hard moments.
Man, let me drop this on there too, because that is so good. That when it says these momentary light afflictions, and look up Justin Rizzo, and I think the song is called Momentary Light Affliction. But it's just quoting, I can't remember what the scripture is, but where it says, these momentary light afflictions are working in me an eternal weight of glory that far surpasses them all. And it's like, let's unpack that for a second. What does, man, I can't tell which way I'm supposed to look.
It's the opposite way.
Is that way?
That it? Hey, yeah, go ahead. Tell me. Tell me about it.
But what you're going through is momentary, and it is so small compared to the weight of the glory that you're taking on, because you'll walk through it. And what you're getting in that glory is eternal. And so what does that mean? Well, when I walk through it, the deal is if I don't walk through those things, everything that God does, he does with his eyes on us to draw us to himself and to mature us through that. And so the thing is that above what you say you believe, whoever you love the most shapes you more than whatever you say you believe. And so when we walk through things with God, he uses that to draw us to himself. When I go, hey, I'm going through this, he draws me to him. And then by being with him, he shapes me like himself. And so then being shaped like him is actually what grows me to walk out of the thing I'm going through. And so we focus too often on what we're walking through instead of being drawn to God.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I just go, God, in this, let me be drawn to you, I will be shaped and grown and matured to look like him. And like James says, to let it finish its work, to let perseverance finish its work to where you are perfect and lacking nothing, where you are perfect and complete and lacking nothing.
Yep. I wonder, I know we got to wrap it up, but I wonder if the reason why the children of Israel spent 400 years in slavery was to prepare them of what it looked like to build someone else's promise when it was harder. Because they didn't want to build someone else's promise. I wonder if the struggle to do something they didn't want to do, to build someone else's promise, gave them the strength to get through the desert to build their promise. And God kept them in that desert till they quit complaining and started to march forward, until they caught the strength they needed. And it's amazing that it should have only taken them like 2 weeks to get through the desert. I think it's like 11 days to get through the desert to their promised place, but they spent 40 years because they hadn't figured out that they'll keep going in circles as long as they complain. Here's the truth. The longer they complained about the desert, the more time they spent in it. And it's like, yes, the desert is hot, the desert is hard, the desert is brutal. Absolutely. But the more you press towards the promise, the faster you'll get through it. It's like the buffalo. I love the buffalo compared to the cow, right? A cow will run from a storm. And because he's running from the storm, he's actually running with the storm, and he stays in it longer. The buffalo understands, if I run into the storm, I'll actually get through it faster. I can't outrun a storm. So many of us will just run from what's hard, not realizing that what we're doing is we're perpetuating what's hard. Whereas if we would just be like the buffalo and run into the storm would pass over us faster. Buffalo understand that. Right? That they're strong and they run through it, and they're not afraid to just headlong into the storm because they recognize, I can't get away from the storm, so I might as well get through it quicker. And so my encouragement is to you, if you're walking through a desert season, if you're walking through a hard season, if you feel like you're building somebody else's promise and you're enslaved to it, God is strengthening you because he's got somewhere for you to go soon. Chase him. The most beautiful thing about that whole thing is they didn't chase a promised land. They chased his presence.
Yeah, come on, man.
They chased his presence. The promised land was only once they got into his presence could they handle the promise. So it's like it was purposeful. What they were pursuing had value and purpose. Pursue the things of value regardless of the difficulty. Pursue the things that God has called you to. He called the people to himself, and then he called them to a promised place. Pursue the things that God has called you to, regardless if they're hard. Regardless. And I promise you'll see something come out of it. Don't measure the hard unless you just want to brag. Measuring the hard should not be a complaint. It should be a trophy on your wall. See that one? That was hard, and I won. Like, it's a trophy. I don't care if you won elementary track. You got a wall full of trophies from junior high. Oh, you won Little League. Oh, man, you won Little League football champion. Whoop-de-doo-dah. You tell me you got a Super Bowl ring, and I'm impressed with you because it's the level of hard you beat that impresses me. Because now I know, here's the difference. If you won Little League, I don't think you're very strong. But you won Super Bowl, now I think you're strong. Your strength is in the level of hard that you came through.
Man, let me just say this, because that is so true. Damn. That is so true. That there's don't think I didn't see you having your little T-Rex finger puppet over there too.
I fidget so much. I have to have something in my hand to fidget.
But even in parenting, they started. I saw a video where they talked about how Japan, how they train kids, and how we tend to say, oh, great job. You did so great on this, right? And whereas in Japan, it's like, I'm not going to praise you for something you could do. I'm going to praise you for something you were willing to struggle through.
Yeah.
And so that's like, for me, my kids are very smart. They're way ahead of their class. And so I keep trying to push them to do things that are struggles for them. I go, I don't care anymore that you're still getting past that all the time. Like I will tell you great job, but after you've done it so much, I'm going to tell you, but what are you going to do that you have to struggle through?
Yeah, I saw a video the other day that said stop telling your kids that they're smart, because if you tell them they're smart and they're struggling with something, they'll actually get it frustrates them because now it's challenging whether they're smart or not. And I don't know if this is good advice or bad advice, but it was interesting enough at least. So I'm just telling you it. But there's like, instead of saying you're smart, say, say, I saw you work hard. I saw you really working hard at that. Like, you're such a hard worker at that. I'm proud of you for taking on difficult things. And I see you working hard and I'm proud of that. And like, it's still in them the desire to press through things and work hard, even when it's a struggle or it comes easy. Like, I saw you going after that. And it's still in them the idea that even if it's hard, my parents are like, wow, I see your strength because you're not afraid to tackle things that are hard. That is a better value than you're smart.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm like, huh. And I'm like, that lines up. I haven't investigated that fully, so don't just take it as fact. But like, I'm not saying tell your kids they're dumb, but you try hard. Don't say that. But more so than you're smart, it's that, and you're capable, it's that you work hard. And give them a sense of pride in the fact that trying and pressing and doing is really the thing, that they have no quit in them. That is a great value to instill in them. And their smarts will not hold them back. You can be really smart and lazy and achieve nothing.
Well, it's like Henry Ford. Henry Ford got taken to court at one point because they said that he shouldn't have the amount of money he had. They're like, he's not smart enough to have it or whatever. And they asked him some question where they said, they were like, where's the capital of this or that? And he calls out some guy who worked for him. And
he said, why? He goes, why would I need to know the capital? Why would I need to know he goes, on my desk is a series of buttons. This was his answer. Something like this. On my desk is a series of buttons. And if I press one of those buttons, I can call to me any expert that will know the answer to any question I have. I don't need to retain any of that information because I have it at my fingertips any time I want.
Yes.
And they realize, like, oh, this man's a genius. I don't need to be the best at everything. I just need to know who the best is and know how to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to be surrounded by people that can help me accomplish my vision. Yeah. We talk all about how Elon Musk is so smart, right? He's going to take us to Mars and stuff. He didn't build any of those rockets.
No.
I'm sure that he's very involved because he is genius level, and I'm sure he's very involved, but he had the capacity to say, I can do what's hard. Everybody, the reason why Elon Musk is the richest man in the world is because he literally did things that people didn't say was hard. They said, that's impossible, right? And he's like, hold my battery. And right, he built things that were impossible. Literally everyone didn't say, well, yeah, you can make electric cars. But what you can't do is manufacture a new American car brand in the United States. You cannot do that because these companies have 100 years of manufacturing perfection. They're 100 years designing and programs and sophistication, and they've worked out every kink and bug for their assembly lines. Like, they're so far ahead of you, you can't catch up. And Elon's like, watch me do it. Watch me build what you say is impossible. You can't build a rocket that can land itself. You can't do that. NASA literally said it's impossible at the stage we're at. We cannot do it. And Elon's like, I like impossible. Now you're talking tell me I can't do something. Watch me struggle through it. That dude has the buffest cortex I've ever seen. Right? It's spilling over into his chest.
That is going to become a thing.
Right?
That dude's cortex is buff.
His mid cortex. It's the biggest one I've ever seen. He takes on things that people say are too hard.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I want to do that. I want to see if I can do the impossible. The mentality of that. And like, you watch one of those rocket land and you're like, is this CGI? There's no, like, this is incredible. And people are like, how is this possible? I remember early in the 1900s, there was a politician that made a statement. I don't remember who it was because he's not worth remembering, to be honest. and he made a statement. He said this. He said everything. He goes, all these people trying to say they've invented something new. Everything that's worth inventing has already been invented. And his state was like turn of the century, 1900, and he thought that's it. We can't achieve no more. And it's like, what a worthless statement. What a worthless mindset you've had. Wow. And so, right. So let's press into, like, let's not live lives that are doing what's comfortable or easy to do, but let's take on and tackle something. If we can learn anything from guys like Elon, is that they take on the impossible and they regularly make it possible. Like that's what they do. And so what is it in your life that feels impossible to you right now? What is it in your life that feels overwhelming or unsurmounting, or I don't know what to do? Or what's the thing that's beyond your capacity? What's the thing that you're not smart enough to deal with? And take that on.
And there's some of you who, like, I'm just going to say this. Don't be afraid to go back into the thing that kicked your butt. Like, first off, you are only imagining your limits until you know where you fail. Unless you go to where you fail, you actually are only imagining your limits. You're guessing at what your limits are. Until you hit the point where you go, I just couldn't do it. You don't know if that's actually your limit. But here's the thing is, I remember this time where I was training, and our coach had like these 3 or 4 really good grapplers come in, and they were putting me in really bad positions. And at the end, he was like, dude, you would get put in a really bad position. I'd be like, there is no way he's coming out of this. He's going to get submitted. And you'd roll out of it. And then you'd get put right back in the same position over and over. And I said, I made sure I was getting put back in the same position over and over. I knew if I got put back in it enough times, I would figure it out. I knew I could survive in it, but I had to figure it out. And I knew that I had to let them keep putting me in it enough times if I was going to figure it out. But don't be like Groundhog's Day. Yeah. Don't be afraid to go back into the thing that's beaten you before. The Lord actually wants to grow you through those things to where it doesn't bother you anymore.
Yeah. Learn how to win. And I think this has been a great podcast. I'm super excited. You know, guys, sometimes we plan out our podcast, and sometimes we just get a concept in our head, mention it 2 minutes before the podcast, and go. And honestly, they're both always great. But I hope that there's value in these for you guys. You know, they're long form podcasts because I feel like we cover a lot of information that can be valuable to you. So don't shortchange yourself and check out and go, okay, well, they're just repeating. No, we're going somewhere with a lot of these, and they have the value to grow you. This is a way that I can disciple some of you and help you guys grow and achieve greater things, because I can just talk to you from a real authentic place. And I appreciate that. And can I just tell you, one of the things I love about Two Dudes in a Bible the most is that I get to be my normal off the platform self. Okay. And not that I hate fake platform people. I hate people. Honestly, I'm going to say this. Some of y'all are going to get mad about it, but like when people get up and they're like, yeah, and the glory said, you know, like, I was listening to a video. There's a guy on TikTok that's called the Holy Nope, you know, and he'll pull up charismatic things and trash our stream a little bit. But he pulled up one, and it was this blonde white girl, and she was preaching, you know, like that. And she was like, I'm going to prophesy. And I'm like, what? Where did that accent come from? And is it how you talk to your husband? Oh, we out of milk. You know, like what? That's not real. It's not just you excited. It's not real.
I've had to tell, you know, a few friends, man, you don't talk like that when you're talking to me, so I don't like seeing you get up on a platform and talking like that.
Yeah. Oh no, that's just me when I'm excited. So that's the way you fight with your wife. Like, I want to see that, right? I want to see that.
It's
the dishes are not done.
For those of you who don't know, Michael Buffer, right? Michael Buffer, who did the Let's Get Ready to Rumble, right?
Yeah.
And then Bruce Buffer, who does the "It's time" for the UFC.
Right.
And they are brothers. They found out that they were brothers later on in life. They didn't know it. Yeah. Oh yeah. They didn't know.
Oh.
I
did not know that.
So they found each other later on in life, and then Michael hooked him up with the UFC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not like they magically
they're both doing. Whoa!
No, they found each other, and then But I was always like, what is it like at Thanksgiving at their house? Is it like, pass the turkey?
Right? Who's gonna say the prayer? I will. 5 rounds of turkey and mashed potatoes. This dinner is scheduled for 62 minutes of eating pleasure. Weighing in at 7 pounds, the turkey. Right?
Where are we going with this? People being fake on a platform.
Being fake on a platform. It's like just be, so that's one of the things that I value about this podcast so much is that it's just completely genuine and authentic. Like what you see is who we are. And I don't like fake. I don't preach fake. If you watch me, I tell people when I teach speaking and preaching, I talk about, you need to come up 15% from where you're talking. You're normal. If I'm in proximity to you and now I'm on the platform, I need to come up 15% to send my intention to you because it's further away. But I don't create a fake accent. I don't create a not real version of there's not something that's not genuine me. It's just me 15% more, right? I just am more excited or I'm more expressive. I just come up 15%, but I'm still genuinely me. But on here, I just kind of relax. And if you're hanging out with me in my living room, literally this podcast was birthed because Justin and I, this is our phone conversations. Now we're talking to you a little more than we're talking to each other, but we talk to each other this way. And literally he'll be saying something really important that God said to him. And I am trying to make him laugh on the phone. And that was us. And we're like, people need to hear these conversations. And I'm like, we need to just do a podcast and just let people in. We need to record our phone conversations. And that's where this came from.
Because our wives would be like, you said it would be a 2-minute phone call, and it ended up being 2 hours.
I'm a liar.
It's like, I intended to be a 2-minute phone call.
I never did. I knew. I'm like, Justin's calling me. I'll see you in a little while, honey. You haven't been married as long as I have. She's like, have fun. She's like, my wife is very task oriented. So she's like, he'll leave me alone while he's talking on the phone. I can do all my tasks.
Your sons are also grown. So eventually I'm hearing, I need help with these boys.
They're a rabid band of chihuahuas. That's what they are. They are.
But they've learned how to act when Ren is around.
Oh no, they know. I will sit on them. One of them was mouthing off to me. I just grabbed him and sat on him. He was so mad. And he's throwing a fit. He's as angry as can be. And I'm like, I'm not getting up till you're calm. And Justin's just laughing. I'm like, no, I'm not moving till you're calm. And he had to calm down and humble himself. And then afterwards, they're like, we love you. We love you. And it's like, I was so mean to you just a minute ago. But now they love me and want to play with me. Kids like boundaries, okay?
They do.
Yeah.
100%.
They like boundaries. Yeah, so they're like, when I come around, they're like, all right, we're not acting up. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. It's fantastic. But these are real conversations because it's really us, guys. So we appreciate you being on the podcast and always tuning in to Two Dudes in a Bible as it grows. We got great plans for growing this podcast because I think it's the realest podcast on the internet. So be a part of it. While we still can get your comments up on the screen. Because one day you're going to be like, I remember when where they could actually read my comment. Yeah. So appreciate us now. Okay. All right, Justin, let's get out of here. Guys, we'll see you next week on Two Dudes and the Bible. We got some I have some great podcasts coming up, just in case you didn't know. I'm scheduling out. You ever heard of I don't think I've even told you, Justin. You ever heard of Master Builders, the Lego Master Builders TV show,
Yeah.
where they build like crazy stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ran into a girl named Crystal Starr. Her and her partner, they won twice. So they won it twice, and she has a great story about Jesus that she wants to come on the podcast and be a part of. So we're gonna have her on here.
Dude,
so
my boys are
that's
gonna be
up.
like, oh.
Yeah. She won
about
Master Builders twice, so she's gonna come on with us. She's incredible. Met her on a plane, and like she has a great story about a tumor she had in her brain and her relationship with Jesus. So we can talk to her about that.
Wow.
I also have another lady that I'm going to film. I don't know if I'm going to go live with it, but I am going to at least record it and release it as one of our podcasts. It's a lady that 2020, I prayed over her and gave her a word against the doctor's word. She had been given 3 months to live, and I prayed into that, and she didn't receive the word so well. She got upset at me for going against the doctors. She was trying to like just get some closure in life and wrap up her affairs, and I'm saying you'll live and not die. And this was in June of 2020, and I said you'll live and not die, and she's like, I'm going to be dead in 3 months. In 3 months. And they were saying basically you're inoperable, you're going to die. She came up to me when I was in California on Sunday night to say, do you remember me?
Come on, I love that.
Not only is she alive, but the story of what happened, I have never heard anything like this. Like probably one of the best stories I've ever heard. It went so far as she literally flew to another country and set up an appointment to be euthanized. Yeah, to be put down, quite literally.
Whoa!
And God intervened in such a, you can't make it up. You couldn't make it up. It's too extreme to make up.
Yeah, get that thing scheduled, man.
Yes,
get that thing going.
It was
that.
So she showed up at my service so she could say, I'm so sorry. I was in a broken. I'm like, I know you need to apologize, but you're alive. I don't care. I'm so excited. Like, yeah, it was amazing. So, that's some exciting stuff coming up. I'm going to be in Florida, in Claremont, which is just outside of Orlando, 7th and 8th, Glory in America. Come to that. I'll be doing a live tonight about that. So I'll be on Dr. Brett Watson's live tonight about that. That's coming up soon. So if you're near Florida and you want to come see me, I will not have Justin with me, so we can't do a live Two Dudes in a Bible, but eventually we're working that way. All right. So anything you want to close with real quick, Justin, before I pretend to cut you off and... Oh, by the way, that's a real email address now.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Did you?
Chris did it.
Chris just compiles all these lists of complaints and hands them to us one day. It's just... Oh man, I got nothing other than again, just to reiterate, man, everything that God wants to do with you is to draw you. Everything is with His eye on you to draw you to Him and to mature you. Man, He is with us. He is Emmanuel. He's still Emmanuel, and that is the greatest thing in the world. Just saying.
Amen. I do think, though, your wife always comes on here and spends some time watching the podcast with us. My wife doesn't even watch them most of the time. She just asked me how they went.
Did you catch her first comment on there?
I saw a bunch of them. What was the first one?
About, look at these handsome bearded men. She's giving in. She's giving in.
That touches my heart. That touches my heart. I love you, Ellie. I love you. I love you. Do you want to say anything sweet to your wife real quick before we end, Justin?
Thank you so much for being